Okay, so we're gonna quickly talk about. Let me just make sure no one's in the participant room really quick, guys. Bear with me. Oh, good. Okay, we're going to quickly talk about the 10 top service areas for the buyer value proposition. And so I'm going to kind of, like I say, go off on little tangents here, but needs analysis. So when a buyer client approaches you, whether they know it or not, this is kind of like the cycle you want to take them through. And I'll explain. So needs analysis. So number one, they want to know that you're going to take the time to really get to know intimately what they're looking for, what they're hoping for. That's what a needs analysis is. It's not really for you. It is for you in a lot of ways, but it's really for them, right? You're taking the time to create space for them and say, hey, let me really get to know what you're looking for, which is going to make them feel what?
Important to them.
Important. Exactly. That's also going to help you understand how you give this client the best service. If they're very, analytical type and they're, number driven, whatever, it helps you get a more, not only helps you get your foot in the door more for building rapport and a relationship, but it also helps you understand your client a little bit better and what they're actually looking for. And it also helps you set expectations. Like if you're doing a needs analysis, someone says, yeah, I just want to go lowball people 20% until we get someone to buy or someone to accept their offer. I mean, maybe that will happen, but you can explain with your knowledge of the market, hey, house prices are down 10%. They've kind of stagnated. Like, does it make sense? It helps you to create an open dialogue for that kind of stuff, as well as learn more about your client and make them feel important. Number two, pre-qualification or pre-approval. So they want to know, when a buyer approaches you, they want to know that you're going to know how to help them get financing, whether that's referring them to a lender or understanding basic loan principles and financing principles to help educate them on what to expect, right? So when they approach you, you may have a buyer who's a first-time buyer. It's like, I've never even bought a house. I have no idea what to do. So if you can communicate to them, hey, we're going to take it, when we first meet, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about everything it is you want and need in your house. I'm going to help set expectations and educate you on what to expect. And then I'm going to help you get pre-qualified and pre-approved so you can find out how much the house is going to cost and get all your numbers up front. So that way you don't end up putting yourself in a position where, you might be house poor. And then neighborhood information. This one was on the list, so I kept it there, but truly don't feel like you need to be, especially as a new agent, like you don't have to know every street. You don't have to know every single neighborhood. It's more about, in my mind, like setting expectations and laying the framework, and then you can figure out the more intimate details later. Like if they say, hey, I really want to be in Cottonwood Heights at this particular neighborhood and whatever, you just acknowledge that, take note of that, and then later make a plan to get the knowledge you need for that. But don't feel like you have to stop yourself from getting a client because you don't have the answer right then and there. It's more just about acknowledgement and then making sure you have a game plan. So I'd just say, like, maybe chalk this up to general, market or like, what am I trying to say? Like general market knowledge versus like specific. Like I have been doing this now like 4 years, and there's still certain neighborhoods I have no idea. Like I don't even know why this one's worth more than that one, or why people like that more than this, and so on and so forth. You just kind of figure it out as you go. Number four, home search. So your client as a buyer is going to want to know that you have tools available to help them find a house, right? So that looks like making sure. So what I tell my clients is there's a tool on the MLS you guys will learn about called a hot sheet, or we call it now listing alert. And it's basically where you take their criteria from a bird's eye view, you put it together in a search, and then they get a list from you every single day at a certain time. So what I tell my clients is, like, in the office, people call it a see it first program or whatever again, it's all about the way you communicate it. I basically just let my clients know, hey, every single day you're going to get a list from me. So you're the first person to know about any new listings. So you can jump on them right away if it's something you like. So then they feel like, oh man, I can kick my feet up. I don't even have to worry about looking on Zillow and KSL and realtor.com. I do it all, right? It's all taken care of. We can talk more about that if you guys have questions. Number five, make an offer. So your client not only needs to know that you're competent in making an offer, but that you have the knowledge to help guide them through, like, understanding what that looks like, right? So again, your buyer coming into this situation may not know any of this even exists. They may come up to you completely green between the ears and like, hey, help me. But this is how you guys know how to guide things. And you'll kind of see there's a process here. So making an offer, helping them understand how to negotiate in this particular market or whatever market cycle we're in, how to actually write contracts and contract terms that are, productive for getting them what they want, and general expectation setting for what's realistic based on the particular property or seller situation and different things like that. Number six, negotiating to buy. So then once you actually write the offer and maybe the seller counters you, or there's, a negotiation process, helping them know what to expect. Again, it's, I always like to say, real estate's all about education and expectation. The more you can educate your clients, the more that they get on the same kind of, like, they're not going to know as much as you, but they get on the same page, which is very important. And then you build trust with them because you've taken time to, like, almost put them under your wing, if that makes sense. And that allows you then to set expectations. So then you can set both of you up for a good experience. And so with negotiating to buy, again, it's similar to making an offer. The more you can communicate to your client, hey, here's what could potentially happen. We could ask for $10,000 in closing costs. The seller could hit us back at 8, or they may say no to this term that you threw in because it's very aggressive, or they may not, accept your lowball offer. Like, helping them understand those kind of things are important. And then during the negotiation process, communication is super key. So communicating with, your buyer, reaching out to the seller's agent, and making sure that you're kind of letting them know, like, hey, it could be another thing. This is totally off topic to an extent. Is sometimes it's not so much about needing an update, but even just letting your client know you're looking for one. So if you don't have something to tell your client, maybe it's, better sometimes to not. But in my opinion, like, I would rather reach out to them if it's been, 6 hours since we submitted our offer and we were expecting a response or something we haven't heard, rather than just wait for the response. I may text my client and say, hey, I'm still waiting for that response, just so they feel like they're in the loop. And same thing with negotiation, because this is typically where you're like on the cusp, like, are we getting the house or not? Usually their emotions are pretty high. They could be in love with this house and it could be like in their mind, life and death, like, oh, I really hope I get this house. And if you just like send an offer and ghost them for 12 hours or 24 hours, like, how does that affect their experience, right? They're going to be stressing. And especially if they have no prior real estate experience, they could be having all those what ifs running in their mind and potentially bringing up something that could kill your deal. They may, instead of reaching out to you because you're not available, they may reach out to a family member who tells them something that's not accurate. Does that make sense? You really just want to like keep a good grasp on everything. Once you go under contract, then you guys have vendor coordination. So your clients are going to want to know that you have at least knowledge of good inspectors, potentially good contractors, and different things like that. As a new agent, if you don't have that right now, that's okay. The great thing is you have all these beautiful faces that are so happy to help you. It's as simple as hopping on Slack or the Facebook group and saying, hey, who's got a guy or gal for this? And your client doesn't even know that's happening in the back end, but by you being available and ready with that kind of information, it's going to make you look like a rock star. Pre-close preparation. So just kind of keeping tabs on the general, like the file, or in other words, the transaction as it kind of moves through the process. So keeping in touch with the lender and making sure your client's aware of what's going on and what's happening next is super important. And then just making sure they are kind of aware of what is happening next, just so there's no, I like to call them what ifs or by the ways. Like, a what if is like something they have no reference of and they're kind of stressing about. And a by the way is like, oh, by the way, I dropped the ball and now I got to tell you about this, last minute, and it's going to affect your experience, right? And then closing. So obviously being there for them at the closing. I like to bring a closing gift and make it an experience for them, because it is a big moment. A lot of people, like, they may only buy a handful of properties in their whole life, and so it's really important, like I say, just to show up and be present for that. And then post closing, we'll talk more about this when it comes to database and stuff, but I'd like to advise that you have some form of plan to stay in touch with your client after the fact, and even like right after. Like, let's say they close on Friday, like maybe next Wednesday you check in on them and say, hey, just want to make sure everything's okay. You have any questions, need anything at this time? Again, you are now a business owner, so it's important to don't get like paralysis by analysis and turn a mountain or a molehill into a mountain, right? And think of like all the things you need to do. Realize this stuff is actually super simple, and it's really just about you taking time to understand it so you can communicate it in digestible bits to your client, because that's all you really are. You're a filter. That's why they hire you. You're just a filter. Your job is to go get the high level knowledge and make it so simple and condensed and understandable to them that they can't help but see value in you. Does that make sense? So moving on to any questions really quick before I move on from buyers? No? Okay, cool. Sorry, this mouse is being a little wacky. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the seller. Very, very similar process, but obviously on the seller side, you're more receiving offers and different things like that. So with the seller, needs analysis, again, same thing. Making that time to meet with your client is very important, so you guys can kind of go over the game plan, let's say. So needs analysis for a seller would look like a listing presentation, where you're going to go meet with them and talk about what your plan is to get their house sold, again, for the most amount of money and the least amount of time with the least amount of problems. That's the value proposition. So when you create a listing presentation, or you're wanting to get training on that, always think of it in that context. Like, how do I communicate to them that I'm going to make that happen? Pricing strategy. So have you guys heard of a CMA for the new agents in here? Yep. So that's CMA. Just random advice on a CMA. You have to remember, your job is not to price the property. Your job is to help your client make an educated decision on how to price the property. So what's the difference between those two perspectives? If I think I have to, go ahead.
Basically going to advise them that hey, this is kind of the range for it,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to set the price. A lot of it's going to be based off of their situation.
Yep.
Do they need more money and they have time to wait, or do they need to sell it quickly?
Correct.
So you're just going to give them more of the range and what the market's doing.
Yep. So we just talked about, for those on Zoom, and I'll kind of elaborate a little more on this, but he was saying basically you're just giving them a range. You're just advising them on a potential range to price their house and then letting them make an educated decision. But if as an agent, I go into the presentation thinking I'm the one that prices the house, I'm not leaving much room for not only conversation, but I can't tell you how many times agents I know, and even in my own experience, you'll lose a listing because you go in and, velvet hammer them with, I think you should list your house at this price. Well, what if they have inaccurate information from Zillow or a neighbor or a relative or something, and they're like, well, you're like 50K off. Well, you didn't even give yourself the opportunity to show them how you arrived at that number, that's the important thing. It's more like, let me give you the back end knowledge of like what's sold in your area, why I think this range is accurate. Maybe get a second opinion from an agent in the office. This is also coming from, I looked at this and another top agent in my office looked at this. This is the range we're thinking, but let me ask you a question. Based on that, where would you price it? And let them talk. Well, you know what? That's a lot lower than I expected because my neighbor actually said, and oh, really? Let's look up the property info. That gives you a way to draw out objections and also take the conversation in a way where they're going to feel like you actually heard what was important to them and you still help them make an educated decision, which in turn makes you valuable, right? Property preparation. So you don't really have to do much as an agent in this. It just kind of depends. Just having general knowledge. I like to say the 3 Ds of real estate for house preparation are declutter, deep clean, and depersonalize. So those are simple tips you can give to your client. For now, I'm not going to go into like a high level explanation of house preparation. You'll kind of figure it out as you go. But there are things available to you such as staging, cleaning, photography, and other things like that you guys could look into as well. But for now, 3 Ds, that's a simple way that as a new agent, if someone asks you like, hey, how can I get my house ready to sell? You can just remember that and easily communicate that to your client. Number 4, marketing strategy. So I like to call this the meat and potatoes of how you actually get their house sold. So this is the what's in it for me part, right? Because up to this point, you're basically just getting to know their situation, helping them understand where to price their house, help understand how to prepare their property. But then your marketing strategy is where you actually go, I guess in a sense, you're setting them up to ask for their business, right? Marketing strategy. So again, you just want to think of it as how can I help them understand that my job and my results or track record or my intention is to sell their house for the most amount of money, the least amount of time, with the least amount of problems. If you can communicate that well, probably 50% plus of the time, no matter what, even as a new agent, you'll still get the business, if not more. It's more about confidence and knowing what they want, right? Number 5, receiving an offer. So when you are working on the seller side, you guys will learn about this in later Ignite sessions, but you'll get an offer, from a potential buyer. Your seller wants to know that you're going to be thorough and help them understand kind of what they're looking at, why they should consider this offer, why they shouldn't, and so on and so forth. And again, just game planning for that is important, so they know expectation-wise that, and just in general, you're going to take care of them. 6, negotiating to sell. So once you get those offers, helping your client go through and know how to actually negotiate and get the best terms or make sure the structure is perfect for them in their situation. Number 7, sell. So you obviously go under contract. 8, pre-close preparation. So again, just kind of keeping tabs on the transaction throughout the process and communicating that to your client. Number 9, closing. So making sure we get to a smooth close. And then 10, post-closing, which we'll talk about more of, like follow-up and just like, nurturing that relationship. So we're going to just quickly wrap up on this buyer-seller conversation, then we'll move into more lead generation type of stuff. So what buyers want most from their agent? They, again, want help to find the right home to purchase. They want help to negotiate the terms of the sell, and just generally understanding that. When they're choosing an agent, they want someone who's honest and trustworthy. They do sometimes look at agent's experience, reputation of other agent or other, but I'll just say, I think I put this in the slides later, but I'll just say it now. I think it's like 80% of people just go with the first agent they talk to. So just be the first person and just do a good job communicating, and you're probably going to get 9 out of 10 people, no problem. So value proposition ideas, again, it doesn't have to be, there's no perfect way to do it, but let's put it this way. So an easy way to do a value proposition, or at least communicate that to someone, is you select one of these factors they're looking for, and then rephrase it into language that explains its value to the buyer. For example, they want an agent who's honest and trustworthy. Could be, hey, listen, you can depend on me to help you make the best decisions, or I'm really going to work to serve your best interest. Well, I just touched on that core need, but in a way that explains how I'm going to do that, if that makes sense. Same thing with sellers. Sellers want to know how to help price the home competitively. They want someone to help market the home to potential buyers, sell the home within a specific time frame, and then basically understand how to get the house ready for sale. When they're choosing an agent, they more heavily look at reputation than buyers. Buyers a lot of times don't really know the difference. Sellers, on the other hand, they're literally paying. Like buyers, they don't have to pay you most of the time, so they don't care. They're like, just help me write an offer, we'll get it done. Sellers, they're like, oh, who am I going to pay 20, 30, 40, 50K to? They're going to be a little bit more diligent. That doesn't mean that as a new agent you can't get business though. Like my first 3 or 4 deals were all listings. So reputation of agent, making sure their agent is honest and trustworthy, and then sometimes it goes down to like friend or family member. It happens. But a couple ideas for value proposition. So if you don't have a track record, that's okay. The cool thing about being with KW is you can lean on us and just let them know like, hey, listen, KW has the strongest reputation in our market for helping people with the real estate needs in the fastest time frame with the least number of problems. You can also look up, market stats or whatever you got to do in that situation just to help them understand that by being here, you're getting trained by the best and you're around the best and you are who you associate with, right? Quickly, just want to talk from people on Zoom or in person. What did you guys learn from that little spiel I just gave you?
Know how you want to brand yourself so that you can present yourself in the most favorable light, whether it's to the buyer or to the seller, in a way that helps them feel like you hear them, you understand what their needs are, and you're the person.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm hearing is understanding how to basically brand and present yourself to your clients, where they know not only are you looking out for them or you're the best fit, but you obviously understand their core needs. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, cool. We're going to talk about lead generation. So by the end of this session, you guys will be able to generate business from the people that you know and who know you. This is like the more valuable part of this presentation. This is what I was more interested in talking about, but because we condensed the Ignite sessions, I at least wanted to touch on value proposition. So we're going to help you identify your sphere of influence and calculate your potential income opportunity based on the people in your database. So then you guys actually are empowered to say, cool, well, based on this many people, I could potentially make this much money. And that's going to help you tie a result to growing your database. And then categorize your sphere of influence and expand your reach. Lastly, I'll help you guys understand best practices of lead generation. So by the time you leave here today, you'll have a good crash course on, okay, now how do I go get business and manage it? So then moving into later Ignite sessions, you actually have business to work on, right? You're not just learning stuff for fun. It's like you're applying what you're learning as you go. So Gary Keller said, my fear of failure was greater than my fear of lead generation or lead generating. So another conversation or another quote, excuse me, is I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution and people are happy to be in relationship with me. So we talk about this a lot at KW, but you're really not in the real estate business, you're in the lead generation business. And it's very, very important to understand what that means, because just because you have a license and quote unquote credentials, that doesn't mean anything. If you don't have people who actually want to work with you or reaching out to work with you, then you just wasted $2,000 and months of time to get here. That's basically it. So you have to remember that this is all about relationship building and making connections, because that's how you actually get business. And I really like the first quote, my fear of failure was greater than my fear of lead generating. You just have to ask yourself, like, how bad would it suck a year from now if I have to tell my friends and family and look myself in the mirror and know that like I could have done this, but I was too afraid to talk to people. And so now I've got a license that's lapsing and $3,000 down the toilet, right? That's what you have to tie it to. You just have to remember that it's actually not that scary. It just takes a little bit of effort and just grace with yourself. And before long, it'll just be a piece of cake, right? So my intention today is to not only give you the nuts and bolts, but to really like help you guys feel more at ease to make this happen and realize that it is just a numbers game. And if you come from the right place in your heart when you're actually engaging with these people, it's not going to feel salesy or gimmicky. You'll actually enjoy it. And I'll explain why. So we'll get to that later. So the 6 core competencies of a business. So number 1, again, that's why it's number 1, is lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments. Unless you have people that are engaging with your business in some way, shape, or form, you don't have a business, right? Then you can present to those people in those appointments, the buyers and sellers, get an agreement, help them, obviously look for houses or help them get their house ready for sale. You're going to write and negotiate contracts, coordinate the sale, the closing, and then again, manage the money. So helping them through that process. Notice which one's at number 1, lead generate. Again, it always comes first. That's the core of your business. So a couple lead generation fears and myths. So I really think language is powerful. So I wanted to show you guys how to kind of reframe some limiting beliefs around lead generating. So example, I think lead generation is really difficult. You can rephrase that to, I was confusing effort with enjoyment. Lead generation is actually easy. It's just not fun. It can be though. Like what I teach you guys today, I promise you, has made my business so much more fun. Like I actually enjoy lead generating because I'm making it about, like, I'll explain. I don't want to get too much into it at the moment, but I don't have time to lead generate. I don't have time to lead generate. If I go on tangents, we're going to be here for a while. So I'm going to like wrap it up. So I don't have time to lead generate. Rephrase that with, I had an issue of making time to lead generate and protecting that time. Again, it's all about accountability. It's like, you know what's important to you based on what's on your calendar. If this isn't important to you, it won't be on your calendar, right? I don't know what to say. Rephrase that to, I had to get on the path of mastering the dialogue skills needed in this business. Nobody knew what to say when they first started, but I promise you, it's like most of the time people will delay the time it takes to learn something, not because it actually takes long to learn that thing, because it takes them forever to start. But I promise you, you could take literally 1 to 2 hours, absolutely max, get a basic understanding of scripts and dialogues, and then probably never have to worry about it again because it'll just flow, right? So don't kick that can too far down the road. Like get excited about, hey, if I just take an hour and like review this script, maybe practice it a little bit, try it out on a couple phone calls, like you're already ahead of 95% of people, truly. And then lastly, I'm afraid of making mistakes. Rephrase that too. I found that lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are well documented. It's like I put my money in the vending machine, I hit a button, I get candy, right? Well, I pick up the phone or send texts and emails and do these things and I get business. It's very like black and white, if that makes sense. SOI income opportunity. You guys are welcome to do this math if you want to, but I kind of did it for you just so we could illustrate this. So number of contacts in your phone, or let's just say database, because I really don't want your contacts only in your phone. I'd like them in your database. So if you have 250 people in your database and you have potential closing opportunity from those contacts, which would put you around 20, like on average, statistically, you get around 20 closings if you have a 250 person database that you maintain well, right? So potential referrals in database, so you times that by 10%, so you have 25 potential, because usually when you look at people in your database, your goal with people you're really like staying in touch with is to try to get like one piece of business, whether it be referral or direct, throughout the year kind of thing. So the total potential income opportunity, because you could have a potential 45 closings from 250 contacts, would be at an average of $5,000 commission, $225,000 income. So today in Utah, our average commission is probably like 10 grand, 7,500 to 10,000. So that's, it could be like close to $500,000 off of like a 300 person database. If you just show up every day and nurture it, basically, you're like a gardener planting seeds, I just like to illustrate that because it gives you guys an idea on like, it's really not that hard. Like whether you have a 50 person database or a 500 person database, it's just math. Like you want to sell 60 houses, it's not about focusing on, I want to sell 60 houses. It's like, what steps do I need to take, like logically to get there? Because it's really just like a mathematical process. Of course. Yeah, no sweat.
But so the only struggle I have of trying to break down my goals for this is, so I'm hopefully belonging to a team. There's some things up in there. But anyway, so then I would be to the 50% plus then there's the cap, plus there's the annual, right? And so trying to figure out how much comes out of each home that I sell that goes towards cap, that goes towards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some point in time, can you just quickly break down the mathematical?
Yeah. I think when you're on a team, because if you're not on a team, it's like a 64-46 split with the brokerage until you cap. I think when you're on a team, it's like a 85-15. So you have your 50-50 split with the team, and then you have an extra 15% tacked onto that until you cap. That's to my knowledge. You can check with the team leader. 15. Yeah. So you have your total cap at KW is 18,000, which is 15,000 to this market center, 3,000 to the international company. And so when you're on a team, they just reduce the split. That doesn't mean your cap also goes down. And on a team, your cap, I think, is 10.5. So it goes down like almost $8,000. Yeah. So yeah. And in this market too, like I was having a conversation with one of the agents, because before like this month, or I guess like 2 months ago, as of December, I left the position as the coach. But before then, for the last year, I've been working with all the new agents as a coach. I was talking to one of my old students, and yeah, I think in this market, you just have to make a decision. Like if you're going to go the solo route, great. You just got to be really dialed in. And if you're not, then just really excessively, use every opportunity you can to get leads and business from that team. And it could be worth it. So yeah, I appreciate that question. Did I miss anything? Is it good? Good.
super conservative. Shares, like they after everything, even from Kathy,
Mhm.
like that's how much is mine, like after all taxes, all that other junk. And then if you have more than that, the end of the year, I think it's a nice bonus. Sure, and we'll roll that back.
Yep.
That's just how I do it, because I just don't want to have to.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't even understand the 15%, so that's, so
Mhm.
both of those. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no sweat, not at all. Okay, lead generation is the number one key to being successful in real estate. Again, it doesn't matter how good you are at selling houses from a skill set perspective. It doesn't matter if no one knows it's what you do and they don't feel connected to you in a way where they're going to actually want to do business with you. So good news though, you have two key components to lead generation: a sphere of influence or your SOI in a database, which after a while they kind of become the same thing, but I'm going to help you guys understand the difference between those two. Really quick before I move on, any questions on Zoom? Cool. So your database is your business. Building up the number of names in it and a relationship with those names is really at the very core of what building a real estate business is about. So I like to use an analogy, or an example would be like, if you think of a doctor, when they sell their practice, are they selling their doctorate license or what are they actually selling?
They're selling their database.
They're selling their database, right? So what is their business really about, the doctor, or is it about the book of business? Right. So the same thing with you guys.
However, we
Mhm.
just say, doesn't mean that another doctor can't buy it until we.
Destroy it. Totally.
Fine.
100%. Yep. And that's where like you are the business to an extent, but like also like your database is like the actual, like, the actual business. You're like the front man, if that makes sense. So yeah, again, it's really important to be focused on building a database. Like if there's one thing you could do, I'll just give you an example in my own business. So like, I don't even know how to explain this. Like I've been full-time in real estate for 4 years, but if I actually look back and think of those years, every single year I was doing some other thing. Like I was bodybuilding at a certain time. So I was like spending all my time on bodybuilding and then like working on real estate a couple hours a day or other things throughout the years, right? When I actually look back, me taking time to build a real estate database has literally made it to the point where even the times when I was inconsistent with lead generation, as long as I had just like that basic structure and some systems in place and had my people, let's say, I would still close like one deal a month minimum, like literally just off of setting. It's like a set and forget. Not really, but I'm just making a point that it doesn't have to be that hard. Like if you just get people together, and I'll teach you later in this presentation how to actually talk to your people in a way that doesn't feel gimmicky, because I think a lot of people, like agents or network marketers or like whatever, like they just do a really terrible job at generating leads because they come across it so gimmicky and businessy. Whereas I'm going to teach you how to actually be human. Like you're a human being first, and you just happen to do real estate versus showing up as I'm the real estate agent. Does it make sense? There's a big difference. I'll explain. So moving on, database defined. We're going to cruise through this really quick. So a database is the container that holds the contact information of all your leads and contacts. We distinguish people differently based on permissions we have to connect with them. So leads are people who have expressed interest in a service of yours, let's say from social media, from your website, word of mouth, whatever, but you haven't really established a relationship yet with them, or you have the right for a one-way conversation with them, to like at least reach out, but it's not like, calling up your old friend Jim and it's like, oh, hey, how's it going, buddy? It's like they've reached out in some capacity or expressed interest, but you haven't actually built that relationship with them. Whereas contacts are the people you actually have a relationship with. So they're more of an ongoing or long-term type of connection. So they know you, you know them, and you have permission to engage in communication with them. These are the people who make up your sphere of influence. They're considered your contacts. These people are golden. So I'll explain a cycle to you shortly, but your goal is to take your leads and turn them into contacts, and then your contacts into SOI. So it's kind of like a funnel. It's like, how do I take this person I've never talked to who reached out, do such a great job with them that eventually they become a contact because I built a relationship, and then do such a great job nurturing that relationship that eventually they become one of my people, like my top, whatever, 50, 200, whatever amount you have. So again, your SOI is, or in other words, is in your database. So 4 laws of a database. Number 1, build a database. So at a minimum, each contact should have at least their name, contact information, and any past business record. Okay. Part 2, feed it every day. Yeah, like notes. It could be have they done business with me in the past? Like where did I get them? Maybe stuff, and I'll show you again later how I go about lead generating and like how it helps me just have really stacked notes for my clients. So if I don't talk to someone in 6 months, it's not a big deal because I kind of know what's going on in their life at the moment. So to answer your question, perfect. So again, feed it every day. So we're going to talk shortly about the difference between prospecting and marketing. There is a difference. 3, communicate systematically. So just be in touch. And then you can also segment your database based on different things. So put them in different sections of your database. Law 4, service all leads. So plan for a lead follow-up program to engage every opportunity. What you don't want is just people just sitting there with no form of engagement. So whether that's something as simple as setting up like, a 36 touch. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's a system to make sure your clients get touched, or in other words, contacted in some capacity, like 36 times a year. That could be like a monthly newsletter. It could be a phone call once a quarter. It could be these different things, but you just want to make sure that they are being engaged with. And then also when new leads come in from your website or Facebook or whatever, there's a saying, speed the lead. Like, be engaged quickly. Like people have a short attention span. If you're, within the first 24 to 48 hours, chances are you're going to convert that lead and get the business. To succeed at a high level in real estate sales, you must commit to frequent contact with the database with the intent of building close relationships. That's the key part though, is with the intent of building close relationships. Don't reach out to these people consistently if you're truly just looking for quote unquote business, because they're going to be able to tell, like they're going to feel that. But if you have the intent of actually building a close relationship, that's where they're going to actually want to engage with you, because they can feel that your heart's in the right place. You don't just see them as money or a number. It's like you actually think of them as a human being who you want to engage with, right? Any takeaways from what we just discussed about database? Okay, cool. So today's agenda, again, we're going to go through the lead generation model. I'll be semi-quick with this, and don't get too confused. It's fairly simple. So as you learn, Keller Williams has a model for everything. That's like one of the coolest things about KW is whatever you want to do. Like if you say, I want to be a millionaire real estate agent, there's a path for that. Or I want to build, a 100-person team, there's a path for that. Like we've already kind of laid the roadmap out for everything. So again, it's all just like following the steps and being committed to them. So with lead generation, there's some slides in here that I was supposed to take out potentially, so we might just kind of bounce around, but it is what it is. Again, there makes sense to be a model for your number one job of lead generation, though it may look complicated. It's really about one thing: relationships. You are in the relationship business. The more relationships you have, the more business you have. This model tells us how to get into a relationship with people, stay in relationship with them, and then be their real estate expert of choice when it comes time for them to buy or sell. So how it works is you have a lead come in. So that could be someone says, hey, I've got this person who said they're interested in buying or selling. Could you reach out to them? Or it could be a Facebook lead, or it could be open house lead, or whatever, right? And we'll discuss again the difference between prospecting and marketing, but it comes in from some form. You put it into your database, and then your job is to take them from lead to a contact. So initially contact them, establish two-way relationship and communication, and then stay in touch to turn them into a contact, which is where you strengthen existing relationships. From there, you go into cultivating your contacts for conversion. So when they say interactive and needs-based offerings, that means like once you know a person's story or their needs, then you can start to talk to them in a way that makes sense for them to do business with you. So if they reach out and they say, hey, I was looking for a house up to 450 in Utah County, then you could say, cool, let me set you up on a listing alert, and I'll stay in touch with properties or something along those lines, right? So you're moving them through the process to get them ready to do business with you. Eventually they will do business with you. So move this really quick. So once they have done business with you, you get obviously new or repeat business. So maybe they've been in your database for a while in this section, and they bought a house 2-3 years ago, but you stayed in touch and they're going to do it again. Maybe they're a new lead, whatever, or it could be referrals. So again, your goal is to get them in your database, keep them in touch, eventually convert them when they're ready. And then once you do, you're going to get either new business, repeat business, or get referrals from those people. And then you go back into that cycle. So it's just a constant like churning. And the cool thing is too, like I say, that your goal should be to get referrals from your database. And so it's not so much just about looking at those people as one opportunity. We got to think they have their own network as well. And so the better of a job you can do to be in touch, build value, and really connect with them, then they're probably going to send you their people as well. So one person could really be the equivalent of like 20 or 30 people. So moving on from here, we already kind of talked about this. Prospecting and marketing are the activities that bring people into your database. Difference between prospecting and marketing. Marketing is money intensive. So think of like a billboard or Facebook ad or Google ad or something along those lines. It's passive, meaning once you set it up, you just let it, it's like fishing. You cast out the line or the lure and you just kind of hang tight to bring something in, and more long-term results. So it's not so much of a short-term game. And then prospecting is time intensive. So meaning like phone calls, sending text messages, going door knocking. It's proactive, meaning it really requires your direct engagement with it, and it's immediate results. So as a new agent, what do you think you should focus on first if you were trying to get business today? Prospecting, okay? Why is that?
Because the more proactive you are, you can get it, like it says, immediate results, because you can well, let's get together and talk and see if we can, what I can do to help you.
Yep, you nailed it. So again, prospecting is proactive and direct. You're actively searching for leads. As a new agent, it's probably the best option because it's low to no cost. It yields a quantity of leads, which in turn gives you quality of leads. Establishes personal relationships, keeps you in direct contact with the market of the moment, and increases your confidence and skill. Long term, then you can transition more into a marketing focus where it's like you have nailed your consistency with prospecting. Now you can start doing things like sending out an email list or considering Facebook ads, these other things. They're just a cherry on top. They just allow you to get more business long term and snowball that momentum. But you have to create the momentum first through more of a direct method like prospecting. Again, relationship management. We talked about that. Leads, database is a container. Again, smart database. I like to say even like data bank, because that's kind of what it is. It's like your business's bank account, right? Allows you to have planned and meaningful communication with your database. Relationships must be attended to, cared for, and cultivated. Once you have a lead, you need to establish, again, a relationship with that person. And then you want to sustain and strengthen your relationship with your existing contacts. Yeah, so lead generate, we're going to just skip this really quick. These are slides to take out. Okay, types of communication. So you've got phone call, you've got email, face-to-face. I can't read that last one over there. Text message, potentially. No. Oh, that's a KW app. And then, yeah, handwritten communication. So that one's like super yellow. So these are the different ways you can communicate with your database. I still feel like, and if you look at I forget who made it, but it's like the communication pyramid, talks about like what's the most effective style of communication. Up top is like one-on-one, then it's like, phone call, written, so on and so forth. So don't be scared to like go out and meet your clients face to face. Don't be afraid to make phone calls. In fact, I would say focus on that first and then use these other things as a way to kind of sprinkle, stuff on top. So with your database, the cool thing is that long term, you can create systems that allow you to do all of these things and then not have to even think about it. It's like emails can go out automatically. You can send out automated text messages. All you really have to do after a while is just make phone calls and show up face to face. So like, yeah, initially though, make your phone calls to establish a relationship. Maybe text them once in a while to check in, or like a simple thing is like birthdays, or like you see a life event, or like maybe they got a new job, like you saw it on Facebook, maybe just shoot them a quick text, hey, congrats, or give them a quick phone call, I just saw this and I just wanted to tell you, like whatever, right? Moving on from there. So again, you can incorporate all those into your prospecting and marketing strategy, as well as your database. Client referral loop, again, going back to this, your database will generate leads in the form of new repeat or referral business. The final piece of the model is a client referral loop. Once you get that business, then they just go back in the cycle. Putting it all together, kind of already talked about that. Most important thing to remember that lead generation is something that never ends. Like you got to do it all the time, like not all the time, but like you got to do it enough over time to get business and keep it. It should be time blocked. Who can tell me what time blocking is?
Always have a set. Well, it doesn't have to always be the same time every day, but you block out a period of time, and you absolutely, you're a little fortress around it, so nothing gets in the way.
You know that. Yeah, again, should be time blocked for the daily best result. Determines the size of your business and essentially is the how that will help you get reach the goals for starting this career. That's lead generation. So kind of talk about takeaways. Let's see. Sphere of influence. We're going to just breeze through this really quick. So your sphere of influence are the people in your life that influence you, and I can't talk right now. You influence and who influence you. These can be close relationships like your close friends and family, or maybe more distant connections like child, friends, parents, people you engage with on a regular basis, basically, right? The cool thing is that like I have people in my database that I may not see in person ever, but because I stay in touch so often, like we're pretty tight, like we have a good relationship. So they technically are my SOI, even though I don't, go to their family barbecues or whatever, It's important to connect with your current SOI systematically, efficiently, and effectively. So we're going to get into that a lot over the rest of Ignite. In order to get the most out of follow-up, you want to get the most people into your sphere. So we'll talk about different ways you can categorize your sphere of influence. as of right now, I don't feel like I left it in just because I wanted to chat about it, but I don't think it's super crucial at this moment that you take your database and just like chop it up into like 50 different categories. Like for now, just like talk to people, get business and start like make it very simple, right? But these are ways you could consider doing it late long term. You got like immediate family, and this is also a way too you could think of like, where can I find people? Like if I wanted to build my SOI, where would I look? Well, you got your immediate family, you got your friends, you got your relatives, neighbors, past coworkers, hobby sports groups, teachers. Like I think Ari, like pickleball, she's like crushes it with that, you know. Worship, like church related stuff, professional services, financial legal services, personal services, etc. So it's like the worst thing you could ever do, and this is just like off topic advice, I guess, is when you think of something, if you say like, oh, I don't know how to do it, well, then you limit your ability to be creative and figure out how. But if you say like, oh, how could I do this? Or like, where could I find people? You empower yourself to actually realize like there's so many different places you can find people. Like you go to like, I get people all the time, especially my newer students, be like, well, I'm not from Utah. Like, what should I do? I'm like, well, you can go to coffee shops. You could go to like, there are literally billions of people. Like, it's hard to miss them. Just get out and engage with them. And especially knowing if you're from Utah or have a close network here, it's like, you only need 250 people in your database to literally make $250,000. It's not that hard, right? Just get out there and just get those people in there as soon as possible, and then just do a good job staying in touch with them. So expanding your SOI. So again, you want to add more personal information to your SOI contacts. So like I like to say notes. So keeping tabs in their life. When you talk to them, they say, hey, I'm going to go on a trip. You write that down. I had a son go on a mission. You're going to write that down. Like you're really more intimately engaged with their life. And it's not just, you're not doing it just for the formality's sake, but you're actually curious. You're like, what's going on in your life? Like I'm actually wanting to know, right? Just ask. That's the craziest thing. You don't ever get anything you don't ask for. A lot of people are so happy to give you business. You just don't ask, right? And a lot of time it's also how you ask. Like if I were to call you and say, hey, do you know of anybody who needs help with real estate? Your first response would probably be like, oh, like I'll let you know, like, no, not right now. But if I said, hey, who do you know? Oh crap, well, let me think about it, right? Well, I asked you essentially the same thing, but the way I asked it was very important for the result that I'm gonna get. Strengthen casual connections. Again, meeting people is not too hard, just network. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. So keep that in mind. Join groups that will connect you with people of similar interests and values. And then again, ask for referrals. So there's always the people that your people know as well. Gather leads from your sphere of influence. So this is my personal favorite. This is how I taught my students to ask for referrals. So you could say something as simple as at the end of your phone calls, just say, hey, like, so good to chat with you today. I just wanted to tell you my goal to hold myself accountable. I have a goal of helping 20 families this year with real estate. I'm just curious, who do you know that I can help right now? Super casual. Like I'm not saying, hey, Mr. Johnson, I'm Riley with Keller Williams. Who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate right now? Like that sounds so, just bring it up casually. There's also, let's see, a couple of the KW related scripts are below. Again, I like more simple and casual because I like to talk to people how I would actually talk to them. So when I get a script, I don't look at the script as in like, I have to say it this way. I think of it more as a roadmap, but then I take it and compartmentalize it into how I would actually say it. So if I have a script that's like very like rigid and structured, that's not how I talk. I'm pretty casual, so I'll take that and say, how could I say it how Riley would say it? That's how I encourage you guys to look at it as well. There's a couple other options. I'm building my business on people I know and the people they know. Do you know of anybody from family? See that already just saying, I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Like that's so long and elaborate. I just like to make it simple. Like, hey, Chaku, so good to talk to you, man. Listen, I just am curious. Can you hold me accountable to a goal I have this year? Of course, man. Yeah, I just want to help 20 people with real estate. Do you happen to know of anybody right now I can help? No, I don't. Okay, no problem, man. Well, it was a good chat with you, that sort of thing. So keep cruising. Again, time block your lead generation. So you want to prepare. So that means getting in the right mindset. I don't know if you guys know who Tony Robbins is, but he talks about like putting yourself in a peak state. So getting yourself almost mentally amped or in the right state of mind before you take these activities, because sometimes the action you take is less important than the energy you take the action with. If I show up to my phone calls and I'm in a piss poor mood and I'm feeling sorry for myself or desperate, people are going to totally feel that and it's going to crush your results. But if I show up excited, like, hey man, like this is what I think, like get excited about the fact you're going to help people. Like when you're making your phone calls, don't think, oh, I'm bugging them. Be like, cool, there's someone that needs my help today. Who is it? I got to find them. That's my job. It's not about anything else other than who needs my help, right? So get excited about that. Practice. So, maybe run through your scripts before you make your phone calls. And then another thing that helps too is prepare a call list. Don't just say, I'm going to just time block and just sit down and make my calls, because chances are then you're going to sit down, you're going to go, oh, I don't really want to call that guy. And oh, what about FSBOs? And oh, should I call SOI? No, make it like concise. Like today I'm going to call SOI. I've got my tasks scheduled for these people. This is who I'm calling. When that's done, then my butt leaves the seat. Until then, this is what I'm doing, right? Take action. So again, have conversations. A real estate contact, like a lot of time you'll hear us talk about like your 10-4 and these different things. To me, a contact is a two-way communication about real estate. So if you call somebody and you have a small talk for a half hour and you were too afraid to bring up real estate, don't count it, because that's why we're here, right? Doesn't mean you shouldn't have that conversation. Maybe they needed it, maybe you needed it. That's great. I love human connection, but be intentional. Like realize that you don't have to make it all about real estate, but to an extent, it has to be at least a little bit about real estate, right? Then maintain, keep your database up to date, and then follow up with your people. Battle distractions. You talked about, I think you mentioned like your fortress, right? So build a bunker. So same kind of thing. So find somewhere to work that takes you out of the path of disruption and interruption. So where will you work to avoid distractions? Store provisions. So have water, have snacks, supplies, whatever you need to make sure you don't want to leave, right? Obviously, probably not gonna have a toilet in there if you gotta pee, then like whatever. But I'll tell you guys a story. There was a top agent, I don't remember what team he was on, and I think he talked about like family reunion or something, but he was like, I really struggled with doing my calls. And so one day he's like, I just took off my pants and I gave them to my assistant. And I said, I've got an appointment in 2 hours. I can't leave this room until I get my contacts done. You have to keep my pants. So then he couldn't leave his office because like he's going to get arrested if he walks around, in his underwear or whatever at the office. So it's totally random, but I mean, the level of commitment, right? If you know you have a problem, then you got to address it. Number 3, sleep for minds. So this means anything that will distract you or take you off focus. So maybe you can't turn off your phone. You're going to be making phone calls, but put your phone on do not disturb. Close any browsers that are distracting. Just be intentional. That's the most important thing. And then take inventory. Like what distractions would I be, inclined to participate in? Like, do I tend to, play on Facebook? Maybe delete Facebook for a couple hours on your phone or whatever. Right? Enlist support. Again, you can give your assistant your pants if you want to. Tell those most likely to seek you out what you're doing, and also like use your peers. Like you guys are all in the same kind of level, like you're just getting started. So maybe it's about meeting here on a certain day and you go sit over there and you go sit over there and you just like watch each other and hold each other accountable, right? Like, you can make it easier and you can also work together and help each other succeed. So any questions on that kind of stuff, guys? Cool. So again, daily 10-4, this is, again, your job description, basically. This is a simple model you can follow to make sure that if you, like literally, this is how crazy this is. So Clay Winder upstairs, back in like 2012, with one assistant, sold like 112 houses in a year by himself. And he said, I just literally did this every single day. That's all I did. It wasn't about anything fancy. He literally, like, without a doubt, check this box every day. I had 10 conversations. I added 10 contacts to my database. I wrote 10 handwritten notes. And then recently they've added the 10-5-1 social media engagement. I think it's like 10 likes, 5 comments, 1 direct message, I believe is what it is on social media. And then, yeah, so it's that simple. Just talk to 10 people every day about real estate at the most basic level and you're going to succeed. Like there's probably no way you could not win,
By the way, just on a side note,
Yep.
on the comments, in another class that I was taking, it said that you can know that there's an algorithm. So like if you really actually want that comment to be propagated, it needs to be 7 words.
Oh, wow.
So just good for information.
7 words exactly or 7 words?
At least 7. Yeah, at least 7 words.
That's solid. Like when you're in school and you just like add filler words, like I would do that, like
Right.
synonym, like how do I phrase this word the longest possible way? Or like, yeah, that's stupid. You could also, this is like totally down, we're going off topic, but like you could like white out text. You could like text at the bottom of the page and then just like turn it white so you can't see it. So the word count would be high, but I don't know. That's stupid. Cheat codes. Cool. So here in a second, what we're going to do is break off into groups of 2. I'm going to have you guys actually role play a script I put together for, again, my past students, but this is my SOI script. So you guys love it. You guys have worked with it many times. But yeah, today, that's I would say like the most valuable takeaway is it's always cool to learn stuff like this, but if you don't actually have something to put into action, then it doesn't matter. There's a quote, education without implementation is just entertainment. So I was not here to entertain you guys today. Like I would love to see you guys actually get something out of this and know that I contributed to your success. So what I'm going to give you today is my scripts. And these are the scripts I've used over the last like 4 years that have really helped me to Like just know how to talk to people depending on the situation. So if I'm calling my SOI, I've got a plan. If I'm calling FSBOs, I've got a plan. Cold leads, expireds, door knocking, all the things, right? So anyways, that link doesn't work. So I got to actually email it to you guys really quick, or I'll pull it up on the screen.
What was your first lead generation, or what is your favorite?
Like method.
Well, like FSBO or expires,
Yeah.
or what's your favorite?
I really like now SOI. Like I don't even call FSBOs anymore. You know, I basically do this. Again, it's
Yeah,
like
but you started out. What did you feel
SOI
like
first.
time?
Yeah, SOI first, and then once I would get done with that for the day or burnt out on that for the day, then I would do FSBOs. And my first 2 deals are actually FSBOs. Yeah, but it was really wild because SOI picked up fairly quickly. If I go back and like actually look at my deals, like I don't know, 75% at least for SOI, even if I wasn't totally focused on that. And that's why I really push for you guys to be focused on that first, because like I left. Yeah, like look, I mean, you always know like hindsight's 2020, like whatever. But I'm like, if I knew what I knew now and I could go back 3 years, like I could have doubled my income, but seriously, like minimal effort. Like it's stupid. Like it's actually real. It's hard, and we make it really hard, but it's actually not that hard. Like this is, you just have to figure it out and then just be consistent and just be like a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, you're of course.
Never
Hmm.
primary success.
Yeah. Yep.
So again, it's not like one size fits all. And like for lead gen, for a long time I was super rigid in what I considered lead gen.
Yep.
And it doesn't, I mean, like my phone calls, I would surround them around the open houses that I was doing and the follow-up calls and texts after that helps too.
Yep.
And so I was killing myself because I thought I had to be like that certain way.
Yeah. I never knock doors. Like genuinely, I can't. Yeah. So I'll use discernment here, and I'll just say, if you try it once and you suck at it, don't not do it because of that, because you're gonna suck at anything you've never done before. Even talking to your SOI, I promise you, your first 10 calls are gonna be a little weird. Like you're gonna be like, oh, it's not really normal. Well, you got to think about it, and this is the perspective I encourage you to adopt. How many times in your life do people randomly go out of their way to call you and actually genuinely check on how you're doing in today's day and age? Rarely. So if you have the intention, first and foremost, that it's not about real estate, it's about that for others, are you in turn, doing the right thing or being good or being valuable to others? For sure. Like if I called you out of the blue, like even if we didn't know each other much, I just said, hey man, I just wanted to check in on you. And I started asking you questions about your life, and you had a space for, 5, 10, 20 minutes to just talk about your life and what's exciting, what's happening, these different things. I promise you're going to leave that call going, wow, what a good guy. Even if I said like 5 things, because it's not about, again, it's what's in it for them. Yeah, it's what's in it for them. So I was going to say something. So yeah, use discernment. If you suck at it the first time, don't not do it, but then also don't. It's like Shoni, our team leader, used the analogy. It's like 4 legs of a chair. If I remove a leg from the chair, it's going to be unbalanced. So you want a couple things to kind of stack your deck and like have success, but like at this point, like yeah, I don't know if I'll ever call a FSBO again, honestly. Like just because my goals have changed a little bit, but SOI is like the bread and butter, and it's the path least resistance. Like there are agents that sell 40, 50, 60 houses a year, make literally like $700,000, and they do nothing every day but show up and go, where's my next deal? Oh, just got an email. Okay, cool. Let me respond to Jeff. Okay, Jeff, I'll be over at your house tonight at 6 to list your house. Sweet, thanks. That's how simple it can get. It's crazy. It's seriously like absurd. Okay, cool. Let's quickly go through this. So this is my SOI script. I'm going to give you guys this whole book, which has SOI script, FSBO, expire, geo, etc. Is this the one that I edited? Let's see. Hold on. We'll run on this. I thought I updated this, but anyways, I'll quickly just go through it with you guys. So, you want to be my okay? So ring ring. Hey, this is Riley. Listen, I owe you an apology. Life's been hectic, and I haven't done the best at keeping in touch. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase it. Again, I don't recommend you necessarily. You don't have to read it word for word. Maybe your first couple times or in practice do that, but then make it your own. So be like, life's been hectic, and really, I haven't done the best job of keeping in touch with the people I care about lately. So I just wanted to reach out and see how you're doing. How's life treating you?
Crazy right now.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah, what's new?
Well, I'm changing jobs and stuff, and so trying to sell my mom's house, and yeah, and I still teach at the college, so
Mm,
I just feel like there's never enough hours in the day.
I feel you. Yeah. Adult life, right? Well, I'm curious, like, how's your family doing? And so I'll just kind of branch off really quick. So this is what's called, I should have explained this before. This is what's called the Ford method. So this is like the cheat code to small talk, if you guys needed one. Basically, you talk about family or like general life, what's new at the moment. Eventually, you'll talk about occupation. So, hey, what are you doing for work nowadays? Or how's teaching going? Oh, you're making a career change. What's that look like, right? R is recreation. So I like to just say, like, what have you been doing for fun lately? Do you have any trips planned? Whatever, right? It's basic questions. And then last is dreams. I don't really ever want to call someone and be like, hey, what are your dreams? That's kind of weird. So I usually just say, like, what are you excited for the year? What's something on your bucket list you want to, check off? Do you have any goals this year? Like, just make it more about like helping them talk about their future, basically, right? So going back to that, what I heard you say is, you have you're selling your mom's house, you got a career change, you're still working at your old job, lots going on. So I could dive into any one of those things. Like that's a beautiful thing. Is asking questions like that, open ended. They're going to give you like little nuggets that you can jump on. You can say, okay, cool. I really want to. I'm curious about your teaching. How long have you been teaching for?
Yeah. I'm just starting my fourth year.
No, that's awesome. What college do you teach at? Snow. What do you teach?
Tai Chi.
Really? That's actually super cool. So then I could talk about, Tai Chi. Like that's a beautiful thing. You just open up the conversation and then it's not about real estate. It's not awkward, whatever. So we could have a, 5-minute tangent on Tai Chi. And then I could ask her about, well, how'd you get into that? And like, what are your plans with that? Oh, how's selling your mom's house going? You could take it wherever you want to go. So let's assume I go through that, ask her, she's going on a trip. I'm taking notes in command. Or that's the other thing too. I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit, but you want to also take notes as you're going through this. So if she says something about Tai Chi, write it down. If she says she teaches, write that down. If she's going on a trip, write it down. The important thing is that you're just paying it forward to your future self. So in 3 months, if you forgot to call her, you can look back at those notes and at least go, okay, let me remind myself about what's going on in her life. Well, she's doing Tai Chi. She had this going on. And then when you call her, you just say, hey, last time we talked, you were doing this. Are you still doing that? Or how did selling your mom's house go? It's kind of like a recap. And then how does that make a person feel when you remember stuff from that long ago? Yeah, I would say it makes them feel pretty important or that you actually care, right? So once we get to the end of that, then I'd say, hey, listen, it's been really great to chat with you. Like I said, I'm glad you made time to chat with me. I've had a lot going on myself and I actually just made a career change. And you're probably going to say, what? Yeah, I just actually jumped into real estate. And again, I edited this. I don't know why it wasn't updated, but I've changed this, like shortened the word count. So what I would say in this situation is, yeah, I actually just got into real estate. And that reminds me, I was actually going to send you something in the mail. Do you mind if I get your contact info?
Sure, that's not a problem. Can I text it to you?
Yeah. So then I'd collect their contact info and kind of what you're doing here. Let me just break it into chunks. So I'm going to say, acknowledge, hey, thank you for making time for me. I just made if you're a new agent, I just made a career change. If you're not a new agent, then you just move on to the real estate part of the conversation. But they're going to say, oh, what are you doing? Yeah, I actually just made a jump to become a real estate agent. And then you're going to use that as a reason to get their contact info. Can I send you an email and something in the mail? Great. And then, whatever, you move on at the very end. That's where you ask for the referral. So if you're not a new agent, you're just going to jump right to the end. So if you have something real estate related you want to bring up, like, hey, have you heard about the market recently? And like they're already one of your clients, they're going to expect you to probably talk about it. If they're not, then you can just cut to the chase and go to the very end and just say, hey, Julie, it's been so good to chat with you. I just wanted to ask if I'm getting off topic. Sorry, I'm like a little tired. So I can say, hey, Julie, listen, I've got a goal this year to help 20 people. And I'm like halfway there, do you know of anybody right now I can help with real estate? And she might say yes, she might say no, whatever. And at the very end, you want to cap off the phone call. So you're going to say something like, cool, if they give you the referral, like, hey, could you put us in a group chat together? Or do you mind if I write down their contact info really quick? If there's no referral given, you'll say, hey, no problem. Well, keep me in mind if someone comes up and maybe soon we can grab coffee together, or I'm looking forward to hearing how your trip to Mexico went or whatever, right? You just kind of end the conversation and it's very, very simple. And the reason I like this too is because as you can tell, like obviously this part's kind of wordy, but the majority of it was not about real estate. Like the vast majority was not at all about real estate. It was about them. And I've had conversations with people like, I don't know, crazy stuff. Like you call someone and you find out like something tragic happened in their life they haven't told anybody about, and you provide the space for that. Or you're the first person they get to tell about something exciting happening. Like, hey, I just got a new job. I'm so pumped. Or like, I'm going on this trip or like whatever, right? Again, nobody checks on anybody anymore nowadays. So if you combine this type of phone call, like making it about them, with things like handwritten notes and the occasional check-in or pop by, how are they going to think or feel about you as a person? What are your thoughts?
No, so good. So I'm just gonna tell you what my oldest son, so I have 9 kids, okay? I've talked to 8 of them with my practice,
Mhm.
okay? And my oldest son, I did the cord method, started out with, hoping, and I told them all, I'm gonna treat you, I said, I'm gonna do twofold. One is I'm gonna practice my script, and then I'm gonna talk to you about your real estate names, right?
Mhm.
So my kids knew going into it. But he said, in his mind, that talking about small talk first, about, how are you and how's the family, what are you doing? He said, it made me feel like, Utah is the network marketing capital of the world, he said. And so it's like, I'm already wondering what you're going to tell me that you're going to want to sell me something. He says, I would rather you just right up front say, hey, I just called you because I've changed my
Career.
and I wanted to let you know about it.
I-
So I just am saying it out loud so people
For
can give me
sure.
feedback.
Yeah, I think a lot of it.
I'll just say this, the reason why is I don't talk to most of the people in my contacts. I've been way too busy with all my children and taking care of my mother and everything. So a lot of the people that are in there, I haven't been, other than Facebook or whatever, I haven't really been in contact with them. And so most of the people that I'm going to be reaching out to haven't heard from them for a while.
Yeah, that's why the start of this, I just actually pulled up I did update the script. Let's see, bear with me, I'll pull it up. So that's why I call this like the apology call, because that's the reason for the call. Is like, hey, life's been hectic. I've done a really shitty job of keeping in touch lately. Do you mind if like whatever, right? So even if somebody you haven't talked to in 5 years or 2 months or whatever, that's kind of the reason. It's like you know them in some capacity. So it's more just addressing that up front. Like, hey, I really have not done a good job staying in touch, but I thought it could be something like, you could make it up. I thought about you the other day when I was at the store, and I just honestly wanted to see how you're doing. Or you popped in my mind a couple of times. I just want to check in on you. How you doing? I think starting the call like that helps kind of bring their walls down. And they're probably not going to feel like you're a network marketer or something. It could happen, but at the same time, it also is like, how are you showing up to the call? Again, sometimes it's not so much about the action you're taking, but the energy you're taking with it. If you show up and you're all good, oh, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. You're fine.
Okay, to add on to that.
Mhm.
So the apology, awesome. And when we're talking about like, your sphere of influence, it's the difference between digging 500 1-foot holes and like 20 5-foot or 10-foot. Right, they're when we're talking about digging wells of connection. If you really focus on the ones who are in the inner core sphere, you want to dig really big holes. So if you haven't spoken to them for a long time, maybe don't bring up real estate in the first conversation, right? Like, I just want to reconnect with you. I'd love to go get coffee. That's that for me. I feel the way that your son feels. If I get that like mission breath at all from somebody calling me, I'm like, what MLM are you on now? And it shuts me down like that. So truly connecting with your sphere of influence will naturally bring you business.
Yep.
If you continue.
Yep.
So for instance, last year we had a rough year. I stepped away for like last tonight is the first time that we have really reached out. It's our first get together, and we're doing a music night where people just bring their instrument and we're just hanging out as friends.
That's cool.
Not talking about it. We connect. But that will lead into coffee dates with everybody, right? Conversation, and it will come to real estate. So it depends on your personality. Some people are just really super driven, get to the point, tell me what you want. But some people, you have to reconnect with before. So
Yep. You can fill it out too. I totally agree.
every person's different.
I figure if they ask, that's kind of the thing I'm going by, is if they could start to ask, well, what about you? What are you doing? That's a perfect thing to me. Plus, it makes me see. You know how they say almost everybody just wants to talk about themselves,
Yep.
right? But if they have enough interest to ask back to me, what's going on in my life, I feel like that is an invitation to share.
So I completely agree with what you said. And I also know that if you leave your results up to chance, you
Oh,
won't
yeah.
get them. So you have to find, that's what I'm saying. Lead with the right intention. Don't be sharky, smell blood in the water, commission breath, like you said. Just be a human being. And I promise you, if you're just casual, calm, collected, and you're truly like speaking from and showing up from your heart, it's going to happen. And it's also not like I say, this is the other script I shortened where, I basically bring up like, I just made a quick change. Hey, that reminds me, I just want to send you something in the mail. Like that's for me, like they don't know what it is, but for me, that's my way of offering value in exchange. Like I'm not even gonna make it all about real estate. Like, yeah, I just actually jumped into real estate. Hey, oh, that reminds me, can I send you something in the mail? Cool. And then a quick like, I set a goal this year to help 10 people. Do you happen to know? It doesn't feel like you were even intending to take it there. It's more like now that we're on this topic, let me at least bring this up. But it was not like, let me just small talk you and butter you up to get to here. That's not the point. There's a difference, right? It's more, that's why I even say like, oh, that reminds me. Like, yeah, well, I wasn't planning on saying this, but now that we're on this topic, let me just at least bring this up versus, hey, how's your family? Good. Okay. Yeah. How's work? Good. Okay. Cool. What are you doing this year? Cool. What's your dreams? Okay. Hey, by the way, do you know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell right now? Like that's the difference, right? But I agree, like, feel it out with people. But I would just say, try not to be passive if you can help it, because you won't get anywhere, And that's the reason I'm saying is I've taken that approach. Literally for like 2 years of my career, I was so afraid to ask for a referral. I literally just didn't do it. Once I started, I realized that people were happy to send me business. And I'm like, man, how many freaking deals did I miss out on probably 30 deals over the course of 2 or 3 years, just because I was too afraid to ask. But it's all in the way you do it. And that's what I'm saying. This is through trial and error, where I just realized, like, how can I do it in a way where I don't feel uncomfortable? Because I truly don't like being that guy that's like salesy and like, whatever. I like to be very like compassionate and caring and let them feel that. And then if there's an appropriate time to ask, I will. And this is my way of being strategic, where it's like, how can I still be like strategic and guide the conversation where I need it to go, but not in a way where it feels that way, or if that was even the intention. Like, if I talk to them about their life for 10 minutes, like, oh yeah, I got to go really quick. I'm not gonna say, wait, no, hold on. Okay, cool. Hey, it's great chat with you. I'll talk to you later, right? But if there's the time and the space for it, then that's where I'm gonna lead it. That makes sense? Cool. So break off into groups of 2. I'm gonna have you guys practice this with each other at least like maybe 1 to 3 times, and then I would encourage you. Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm good. Yeah. No, you're good. So yeah, break off into groups of 2s. We'll practice this for a little bit, and then I believe let me just check the time really quick in this slide really fast. Cool. After this, I'm gonna have you guys. So we're gonna do role play for a little bit. I think this goes until like 11:30. 11:30. So role play for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna challenge you guys to put it into action. So the first person that can get a referral or appointment will get a swig or a Crumble gift card from me. So if you guys want to make some phone calls, then you can do that. And I'll even just say the first person to make a contact and try that, I'll just give a gift card to, just because I'm feeling generous. So you guys take the next 15 to 20 minutes to practice it, and then go make phone calls. If you guys actually make a contact with the script, then I'll give you a gift card. Deal? Cool. Go ahead and get in your groups. We'll get started. And you're going to be just like, if you guys are cool with it, just look up here. If this is not like bright enough or it's too small or something, I'll email it to you.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah. Can definitely try to. Hold on.
Can't you do it right there on the top?
I can, but what happens is like, when I do that, it like cuts off a part of the script. So honestly, the important part is at least this part. Like here, if they give you a referral, just say, hey, we put me in a group chat or send me their phone number. Like, it's just practice, so it's not a big deal. But at least for now, just at least nail this section. Just try to get through this. So, deal? Awesome. Does anybody not have a partner? Yeah. Cool. Good to see you guys. Yeah. If you need anything, did you guys join a team, or are you guys still solo?
Yeah, we're on the phone.
What team? Dope. Good. Good to see you.
And so this year, my goal is I really wanted to reconnect with people and get to know people better again, and just